So, under the possibilities, with retirement, everybody, I mean, no matter where you're in your arc of your career, either starting out or closer to retirement, we all spend many years, you know, looking forward and planning for the retirement you want. It's more important than ever that everyone's an active participant in planning for that future for, you know, into your retirement years. So, that being said, the good and bad news of the situation is we're all living longer. A recent stat that I saw which was kind of interesting, is as far as longevity goes, if you had a couple that were 65 years old today, there's a 90% chance that one of them will reach age 90. So if you're 65 today and a couple with reasonably good health with no major health issues, you have a 90% chance that one of the two of you will reach age 90. So if that 65-year-old were to retire today, that means that they have 25 years to basically make sure that their strategy is working to take care of them through 65 to 90 years old. So one of the key considerations of that is, of course, what does inflation look like to you in that whole process? So for a couple that's 65 years old, the costs and the expenses that they have today, based on a reasonable rate of inflation of 3%, and that's kind of an historical idea of what inflation would look like, the cost of what they have will double in 25 years. So that's significant. So just in a regular reoccurring 3% rate of inflation, over 25 years, what you're buying today will be double in 25 years. So, and of course, the other thing to touch on is another one of the major expenses that you have, obviously, managing through inflation, but that's healthcare. So the landscape of healthcare has changed significantly in the last 20, 25 years. What they're forecasting and what they think is that out-of-pocket medical expenses for someone that's living in retirement, the costs are looking towards being $13,000 a year for out-of-pocket medical care expenses per couple. So per couple. And our guideline to that is typically initially budgeting about $5,000 per year per person is a good starting point as far as when you're building that out. Now, as far as long-term medical care, the amount you budget really depends on how you think you're going to cover long-term medical needs. There's a number of different strategies you can have. So how that's budgeted is really based on what you plan to do. I'm now on the page where it says seminar overview, plan for the expected. So I'm sure that none of those numbers of your costs doubling in 25 years, or the cost of having out-of-pocket expenses being around $13,000 a year per couple, that can be concerning. So I guess the only thing is that's why we're here today. Is the good news is if you have a clear understanding of the possibilities, it gives you an opportunity to develop the strategy and kind of be prepared as you can as you head towards those years. So the strategies that we look at have three basic components. So one is planning for the expected, so for that inflation and the other things that come out, and preparing for the unexpected, so things that come up, either unexpected expenses, health issues, healthcare costs. And then finally, it's important to position your investments for both those situations, for planning for the expected and preparing for the unexpected. So let's see what we can do to build the strategy. We'll also highlight, of course, touching on the fact that one of the biggest parts of it is regular reviewing where you are to make sure that you are taking advantage. As we go through business cycles, what we recommend based on product guidance and may change over time, because different things have historically worked better in different market conditions. So when we had a rising interest rate environment, a rising tax environment, and we were dealing with inflation, there were different things that we're kind of doing now that some of those things are kind of slowing down and so forth. So when we work with clients and you start by, figure out a strategy, the best way to start determining that when we say plan for the expected is just determining where you are today. Where are you in your situation, so we have a clear idea of a starting point and what that looks like to you. So what do you picture in your retirement? Where are you today? So that's really an individual situation. There's some other stuff that you can take with you that can be helpful in helping you develop what you want your retirement to look like. Many of you may have a really good idea, a very vivid idea. When I work with clients, lots of folks have many different goals and ideas of how they want to spend their retirement. And we found that really painting a vivid picture of what your retirement looks like and what you want out of it can really help you get down to the nitty-gritty and build that out and make it more of a vivid picture of what you want your future to look like. So build a plan to help achieve what you're at. Now I'm on how much will it cost. So when we look at costs, so when you determine the expectations of how you want your retirement to look, once you really have a good picture of what you want to have for retirement and what that looks like, what expenses do you have to live that life? So, and then that's going to help you have a real good, reasonable explanation, a reasonable idea of what your expenses look like. So we have a real good idea of what your expenses will look like, what your spending looks like. So we're starting with that. When we look at, okay, so here's how you want to live your retirement. Here's what you think it's going to cost. Here's how you want to have it. We think it's important to kind of break down the expenses that you're going to have in retirement in two buckets. One is those things that you evaluate that you have to have. They're not negotiable. You have to have these certain things. And then there's some things that you might be like, well, instead of, they're more something that's adjustable. They may be something that's more discretionary. But that way, if you build them out and like, these are the things you have to have, and we look at it when we talk to clients when we build out these things, we call it needs, which would be the have-tos, and the wants and wishes. Wants are, and then there's like the real, okay, we need to have this, we want to have that, and gosh, if we could really hit this one, that'd be great. So break that down, but breaking them out that way gives us and the clients more of an ability to be flexible with spending. So the other thing is about taxes. When you start to get to a point where you're starting to then create an income stream from your assets, from your investments, what those are and how they're positioned may determine how they're taxed. So we want to approach this as with your withdrawals to be the most tax efficient approach possible. So we evaluate that, and that can be something you can evaluate in the best way to withdraw the funds so that you're getting the most of the money you've saved in the most tax efficient manner. So the next step, once we've determined those things, is to take a good look at where your income is going to be coming from. And there's two basic buckets for that as well. The two basic buckets are those that we consider income that you have from outside sources. So that would be things such as your Social Security, if you're lucky enough to have a pension, and possibly if you decide when you're in retirement to work a part-time job. So that would be outside income sources. So your Social Security, pensions, part-time income. And so that's all lumped into the category of outside income sources. Simply put, yes?
Can you explain the difference between a pension and an annuity?
Well, a pension is typically something that now many pensions can be annuitized and can have that.
Yeah.
A lot of times, depending upon the plan you have with the employer, they're very different. So we'd have to get under the hood and really evaluate what that pension is like. An annuity is an insurance product, and there's been a lot of talk about that. How we feel about annuities, it can be a good strategy, but it's for a very limited part of the population. A lot of folks, it doesn't serve them well, and they were overused for a lot of folks who really didn't do financial planning in the idea. But an annuity is an insurance product that you can buy into that can then create a guaranteed, depending on the terms of the annuity, a guaranteed lifetime income source. So it's a way that you're taking, so what you're doing is with that is you're taking funds and out of the market where there's market fluctuations and buying that into an annuity that creates a dependable long-term income stream. So the pension part is more of a individualized situation. It can be, the pension can be an annuitized situation, or it may not be. It may be just another source of income. And so say for example, a lot of folks who, depending upon, things change over time, but some of the folks that are with the state of New York have like a deferred comp package, which is kind of like a pension. You can take that from them, roll that money out and invest it yourself, or use that to fund an annuity. So there's some flexibilities, excuse me, with that. Is that helpful?
Yes, that's helpful. And a 401k is a kind of pension?
A 401k would be a retirement vehicle that you typically would receive through your place of employment. The typical thing with that would be where you're contributing, typically, historically speaking, you're contributing pre-tax dollars to the 401k. That's reducing your taxable income, so there's a benefit in the near term. And many employers will match you up to a certain amount. So certainly, they may say, well, you can contribute up to X, but if you contribute at least 3%, we'll match you with 3. So, and we always talk to folks that if that's an option where they're matching, that's the first thing you should do. Definitely the first thing you should do is get that, because I can't double your money overnight. So whatever that contribution is being doubled every time they're matching it. There's some thoughts about once you leave an employer, but we can get into that. But yeah, so the 401k is a retirement vehicle. And to shift that, IRAs like your Roth IRA or your traditional IRA can be under the umbrella of a 401k, or you can do it outside of your employment. So I have many clients that have 401ks at their employer and invest with me with either a Roth IRA or traditional, depending upon what works for their situation. There's pros and cons for each, so it's more of an individualized approach. So, that helpful?
Yes, but complicated. I wanted you to make it easier.
Well, yeah, there's no easy, that's the problem. But, I mean, and not that this is any, but that's what what I do come in, because I can help walk that through and give you the process of how that makes sense and break it down, and then you can decide on what's your best option.